Near the bottom of your screen, you'll notice this library area we have. And when you first install Blender in Sensei format, you'll probably notice that this looks completely blank. And that's because when you first install, you need to select a location on your computer where these folders are, either that or create a new location, which we'll go over in just a minute. What this library allows you to do is drag and drop assets such as Blender files and images directly into your 3D view to use them, change them, save them, or whatever, without having to go to File, Open, and then navigate through the file browser. You just have immediate access to these things, which allows for a really dynamic, quick workflow. So for instance, if I were to click on my Utilities folder and under Reference, I just have a single reference picture here of a hammer. So if I were to press 1 to go into front view, because the reference images only show up in the orthographic views, that is 1 for front, 2 for back, 3 for right, 4 for left, 5 for top, and 6 for bottom. So if we go into one of those, such as the front view, and then I click on the icon next to the file, and that's how you drag it out into the 3D view. You have to click on either the little icon or the thumbnail next to the name, and just click and drag it out. And so we can immediately begin working with this reference picture. So if I press T to bring up my tool shelf and my property shelf, under background images, that's what this is, we could put this image in front, we could increase its size, rotate it, or whatever. If you planned to model in a traditional way, you could actually load different reference pictures for different views. So for instance, we're in the front view. So say you had a front image you wanted to work with on an object like this. Under all views, you could change this to just front like this. And then say you had another one for top view. So we could press 5 to go into the top view here. And then we could drag out a different image and set that under views to top. And so whenever you rotated to these different views, you would have these different reference pictures to work by. Another example of how we can use our library down here, if I click this up arrow, which this takes us back to the previous folder that housed all of the items in the current folder you're in. So if I press up there, this takes us back to where this reference folder was we were just in. See how that works there? And so I could load also Blender files directly this way. So I could click on my projects folder, and under Sensei and under characters, here is some images and models and things I was working on for the original Blender Sensei animation that's on the front of my channel. So I could just once again grab this file by its little icon, click and drag it out into the 3D view, and I immediately have access to this. And I could, make some changes to this, scale it, or something like that. And then I could press Control S, and then this little save confirmation window will show up, and you could save this, and then you could immediately start working on something else. So I could, click on the icon next to this sensei.blend, and then just start working on this. And so that's the purpose of this library. So it's extremely helpful and really great for speeding up your workflow. Okay, so to set this up, we need to bring our mouse somewhere inside of the library here. And you can either press the tilde key, that's the little squiggly key, directly under your escape key to the far top left of your keyboard. You can press that over any window actually to make it into full screen. So we would want to do that, or you can press Control Up or Control Down. Those will both work to get yourself into full screen. You'll notice these little plus tabs, these little kind of translucent plus tabs with a little black background. Whenever you see one of these in Blender, this means that there is a menu hiding behind that. So let's go ahead and click on these to expand all of the possible menus, which typically we keep hidden so our library looks nice. Over here, we have navigation of our computer through our various hard drives or saving locations. And down here, you'll notice I have some bookmarks set up, which are super easy to set up. All you do is once you navigate to a specific folder, you click this little plus sign and you can save a bookmark, and you can very quickly get to a location, which is really helpful. You can also delete them by pressing the minus sign, and you can change their position by using these up and down arrow keys. So if you already have 3D assets that you normally like to work with, or you're familiar with Blender and you have a location where you keep projects and textures and things like that, you could go ahead and navigate to that. So the most common hard drive is the C hard drive, and you could just navigate to where you keep that on your computer. Say, for instance, you kept something on your desktop, we could go to Users, then click on your PC's username, and then Desktop is here. And so we could select this location. I highly recommend not using your desktop as a main location for things because it can get cluttered pretty fast. But in any case, if you wanted to create a bookmark of that, you could then just click the little plus sign, as I've done over here. If you don't have a location like this, we can make one, and I'll show you how to do that. For simplicity's sake, let's just make a new Blender library on our main C hard drive. So I'll click C here, and then I'll press Create New Directory. And this just makes a new folder, and we could call this whatever we want. I'm just going to go ahead and call this Blender Library. You could call it Assets or Library or whatever you think's best. And then here is the location of where we would keep our assets. So we could maybe perhaps make one folder where we plan to keep our main project. So we could call this Projects here. We could make another folder and call it Images or Textures or whatever. And we could maybe make another one and just call it Tests, for say we wanted to keep a folder of just quick test files where we were testing stuff that wasn't very good looking, but just a way to quickly go and access those tests when we're trying to learn things. Okay, so we've got this location set up. So now what we can do is click on the edges of these menus and pull them up to drag them shut. And so I'll do that for both of those, and I'll come over here and click and drag and pull that over. And then to minimize this, we just press the tilde key again, or we can press Control up or Control down. And so now you have a little location of your folders. So to finalize this, to make this to where Blender remembers how this all looks, you go to File and Save Startup File. And when you click that, a little confirmation window will show up and say, okay, save startup file. You want me to do it? And then you just click on that to confirm. And so the next time you open up Blender, you'll be right here with your assets. So to show you that this is not just inside Blender, but it's now really on your computer, I'm going to press my OS key. That's the little Windows key on my keyboard. And this brings up my taskbar here. And I'm going to click on a button which I have set to launch my basic window browser. Under Computer and under C hard drive, you'll see that indeed that Blender library folder we created is here. And you could bring in files from, say, BlendSwap or images off the internet or whatever, and load these folders up full of good stuff that you had to work with and experiment with and enjoy, and just drag and drop them into your scene. Okay, so we're all ready to go. So join me for the next video when we're finally gonna get this bird off the ground.